What's up, First Thing First listeners? It's your boy Shay Sharp, co-host of FS1's Undisputed. I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Club Shay Shay, where we always do something before two something. Each week, I sit down with a guest for a drink and conversation, and as host and proprietor of Club Shay Shay, I've welcomed in esteemed guests such as Snoop Dogg, Floyd Money Mayweather, LeVar Ball, Isaiah Thomas, just to mention a few. Whether I'm talking to an athlete, a musician, an actor, or a lifelong friend, Club Shay Shay is a place where people share inspiring and motivational stories about their journeys to prominence. The new episode drops every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Club Shay Shay now and make sure you never miss a new episode. Now, back to First Things First.
First things first, earmuffs, Nick. Are the Brooklyn Nets actually the NBA's best team right now? What is San Francisco's ceiling with Jimmy G under center? And how much longer will Tom Brady's Super Bowl window be open? With that, we say good Thursday morning, everyone. Jenna Wolfe alongside Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, as we welcome back the BK man, Kevin Wilds. It is lovely to have you back, sir. You have been missed.
Full of enthusiasm and antibodies. Let's go.
All we can ask for on a Thursday morning. We'll get to all that football business in just a second. But my friend, Nick Wright, we got to start with the Lakers. Lakers played the best team in the NBA last night, and it wasn't themselves, Nick. Lakers taking on the Jazz. If you got kids, send them out of the room because this was not pretty. Wasn't great. No Anthony Davis, no Dennis Schroeder. So no way they were going to stop the Jazz, who are red hot these days. Utah wins by 25 points. So you got this Laker team. They've lost 4 in a row. You got a Laker team that's lost 5 of their last 6. How worried do you think LeBron James actually is? I'm going to give you a hint. Not very. Take a listen.
It's challenging for all of us, especially some of our young guys, some of our guys that haven't been in this position before, where they need to do a little bit more than, what they're asked in a normal situation. Everyone's, just speaking about AD, and obviously that's a big hit, but we also haven't had Dennis along the stretch for a few games too. He's a big piece of our puzzle as well. So, and everyone has been put in positions that they, wouldn't be put in under normal circumstances. But, it's always about staying confident, continuing to give my teammates the courage and the confidence out there on the floor and to make plays. And, it's a tough stretch for us, but, if this won't define who we will be for the rest of the season and for the long haul, that's for sure.
LeBron James with the old crossbody fanny pack. Nick, should we be giving credit to this Utah team for their 25-point win? Or do we criticize the Lakers for their 4th straight loss?
Well, let's do both, and let's do both within reason. First of all, I do want to give credit to the Jazz. They are currently the best team in the NBA. They're the hottest team in the NBA. If you're a gambler, they have been a godsend. They are 20-3 against the spread in their last 23 games. And all of those accolades should be mentioned at the end of the season when they have a nice little party alongside the 2015 Hawks and the 2018 Raptors and the 2019 Bucs of awesome regular season teams that have a 0% chance to win the title. So it's a nice accomplishment. It's a well-rounded roster. Good job by everyone involved. And their season will end in probably the second round of the playoffs. Now to the Lakers. This Laker team reminds me of somebody. The Laker team LeBron was on his first year with the Lakers. Pretty good on defense most nights. Can't hit a shot to save their lives. And if LeBron isn't excellent, and last night he was far, far from excellent, they're going to struggle to beat anybody. Because this, without Anthony Davis, and Schroeder's important as well, but he's obviously not the level of Anthony Davis, this team is a lot like that Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma Laker team alongside LeBron. So if this is the Laker team that shows up in the playoffs, if Schroeder takes a sabbatical and AD never comes back, they're screwed. It's not going to be the Laker team that shows up in the playoffs. So no, Jenna, for the 19th consecutive year, I am not concerned about a LeBron James team having a swoon shortly before the All-Star break, Brandon.
Nick, man, I go back a month ago. There was an interesting moment on television, an awkward moment on television. Shaquille O'Neal, Donovan Mitchell, remember that? Donovan Mitchell had his headphones on, listening to Shaq from the studio. Shaq says, man, I told everybody tonight on the broadcast that, you know, you're one of my favorite players, but you just can't get to the next level. And since that moment, these boys been on fire. So, Jenna, you got to give all the credit to the Utah Jazz, because the easier conversation is that the Lakers are struggling. The Lakers don't have AD. We know that. This is expected. When you don't have Schroeder and AD, you're going to struggle. Now, Nick, you talk a lot about defense. I'm a guy that says, you know, the modern NBA is about pickup basketball. Nobody plays defense. But come on, man, if you guys are going to say that we're going to be a defensive team, that's effort. You don't need AD. Schroeder is not known for defense. You guys get blown out by 25 points. That's a problem. It seems like you guys might be tired. It seems like LeBron may be tired. You know, how do you go from 40% shooting 40% from three to 20% from the three-point line? It says you don't have any legs. So, Wilds, welcome back. Sorry to throw you right into this chaos, but there's a huge problem in LA. But, you know, this Utah team is phenomenal.
No, the Utah team is really good. I'm not worried about the Lakers. I'm a little bit more worried than Nick, who has not a worry bone in his body. Because, Nick, I think the Lakers are in this rare situation. You have, like, win-win situations. You have lose-lose situations. And the Lakers have the very rare lose-win situations. After the game, Markieff Morris like, you know what? This is actually probably good for us. Hey, if you ask me, we need it. You never know with the injuries. You never know in the playoffs. You just never know. We need these challenging times to find out really who we are. Then LeBron's like, you know what? My old buddy Markieff Morris is right for us. You're going through this right now. I think it's going to benefit our team tremendously. And then, Brandon, you mentioned, so how does it benefit the team, Nick? Maybe LeBron's not this great reincarnation of Ray Allen that we were ready to print up a new line on his Wikipedia page, Nick. He's shooting really bad. I don't think it's being tired, Brandon. I actually think he's just kind of forcing shots. Or, Nick, maybe he's just not a good three-point shooter and we were all very too early on this.
All been duped.
Yeah, or maybe this is another thing that we have seen previously, which is, I'll go to his last year in Cleveland. Another year, by the way, he played all 82. And the reason I go to that year is prior to this season, it was his single best high-volume shooting season of the year. And look at his month-by-month splits. He finished the season, I think, shooting 37% from three, but there was no month where he shot 37% from three. It was 3 months where he shot 40%, and 1 month, it happened to be January, which would be January, this would be January on normal schedule, where he shot 22%. This is a trend for LeBron. He gets hot for 8 games from three, and he's ice cold for 5 or 10 games from three. So he's not a 41% three-point shooter. He never was. But he's also obviously not a 19% three-point shooter. But I want to circle back to the Jazz quickly because, Brandon, I think we agree on this. Everyone's going to be on television this week giving the Jazz their flowers, and good for them. And they deserve them because they've earned it. I'm very curious to see if anyone actually is going to back that up with, and I think they can win the title because I don't think anybody does. I think that everyone that's going to be like, good for the Jazz. We're so happy for you. Quinn Snyder, Donovan Mitchell, put respect on his name. The Stifle Tower. Do you see Jordan Clarkson with the ultimate green light? I think all of them are like, and here are 6 teams I would pick over them to win the title. And I really think it is 6 teams that people are going to have more confidence in going into the playoffs. No. So I do think Brandon, both LA teams.
Just 2.
Both LA teams.
No. That's it. Done. Your list is done. That's it.
No, and the East. And the East. We got to go to the East.
I'm talking about the win the title. Oh, to win the title.
Yeah. And to win the title. Yes. So now we can get to at least 5 and probably 6 and in a couple weeks 7. So good for the Jazz. It's adorable. You're playing great. No one thinks you can win a championship. 0 people believe that, Jenna.
So in my never-ending quest to find out if Nick is worried about LeBron and the Lakers, it is once again not even a little bit. Time for a little drawing a blank. Yesterday we were talking about whether Devin Booker got snubbed not being named an All-Star. Turns out, no snub. Anthony Davis was ruled out of the game, so AD out, Devin Booker in. Little replacement action. Brandon, Booker replacing AD in the All-Star game is blank.
Oh my goodness! I mean, this should have happened before. I mean, this is a non-story. I mean, it's terrible. It reminds me of my times at the Pro Bowl. Pro Bowl, you have this big moment. They say, "Hey, these are the guys that got voted in," and then you say, "Well, Larry Fitzgerald just opted out." So then they call the guys that was waiting, and then when he walks into the locker room, be like, "Oh, that guy's coming in, man. You didn't earn that." So it's a big deal because Devin Booker should have been voted in from the get-go.
Well, here's the thing. The NBA Wilds, I really do think 5 starters from the East, 5 starters from the West, and then the next best, what would that be, 14 guys? Because Booker, I don't think Booker got snubbed because the West is so deep, but to have Booker have to be an injury replacement and Vucevic and Tatum, who's on a sub-500 team, and those guys just be in with the coaches, that I'm not a fan of. So Booker should have been there already, Wilds.
But then how does the game actually work, Nick? If you just have like a bunch of guys from the West, are you still playing East West?
Well, you're picking teams anyway.
You're picking the teams. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've been out.
Come on, Wild.
Sorry, I forgot.
Too long. All right, we take a turn, talk some Tom Brady. So Tom Brady wants to play till he's 45. The Bucs are like, why stop there? Let's keep going. Should the Bucs allow Brady to dictate his football future? That's next. First things first. Hey, First Things First listeners, I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com, reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports, plus a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, as well as the televised version of this show, just a click away. For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. So download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com. On to Tom Brady now. Only the GOAT could write a script for how he wanted his first year in Tampa to go and then end it with a Super Bowl win and a wobbly boat ride. No surprise, the Bucs want the same script next year. No surprise, they want the same script writer, minus the Lombardi toss. Bucs GM Jason Light saying, quote, "We would love to have Tom play here as long as he wants to play." Hey, Brandon, you think the Bucs are making a mistake allowing Tom Brady to dictate his future, the thing New England never let him do?
No, they're doing it the right way. This is what the Patriots were supposed to do, Nick. I mean, I talked about it earlier in the year. Let this man roll his way out of New England in a wheelchair if he have to, right? Bad ankles, bad knees. Man, players know when it's time to hang it up. Some guys hang on just a little too longer, but a good player like Tom Brady is going to be able to look at himself in the mirror and say, you know what? I don't want my legacy to be that I held on just a little too long where everybody was roasting me. You got Nick Wright on television, just talking about how bad I am. Nick, you've been trying to do it for 8 years. 8 years. So he knows.
Eight's a stretch.
But this is a situation, Nick, look, it worked out. He had one of his most efficient years ever, 40 touchdowns. 40 touchdowns, 12 picks, almost 4,700 yards throwing the ball. Like, come on, this dude is still getting it done at a high level. Why? Because you surrounded him with talent. That's why you got a good defense, a top 5 defense, and then you got 3 pass catchers, an offensive line, and 2 running backs. Bill Belichick should have did that. That's what should have happened.
Well, and Brandon, this is, I think, less about Brady at 46 than it is Brady at 44 next year and keeping as much talent as possible around him. So, everybody get their Tom Selleck glasses because it's reverse mortgage time. The Bucs should absolutely let Brady dictate his future because it's not actually about the future. It's about next season. And if you don't know what a reverse mortgage is, it's like, you're in your golden years. It's like, hey, I'd like to have a little extra money. I'd like to be able to go travel to Europe. Never got to do that. I got this money in the house. I'm going to leave it to my kids. They've always been ungrateful. They're like, nope, we'll give you the money for the house, and then when you pass on, we'll take the house. That's what the Bucs need to do here. When Brady's done, they're going to be screwed anyway. They're going to go back to being the Bucs. So squeeze every last bit of juice out of this berry while Brady's there. Yeah. So are they potentially, by giving him an extension and lowering the cap hit this year and putting themselves in a situation like the Saints are going to find themselves in, where they have a $20+ million cap figure for a retired player, are they potentially screwing over future Tampa Bay? Yeah, but future Tampa Bay is likely screwed anyway. So I actually think this is really smart. And it's just something, Wilds, that Belichick was unwilling to do. Belichick is never going to sacrifice future me for today's me's needs. But a lot of teams will. And sometimes it ruins your franchise, but sometimes it's how you strike while the iron's hot as far as championship contention. And so I think it's absolutely smart for the Bucs, even if Brady ends up falling off that cliff that I've been predicting for the last few years next season, because you want to try to stack wins now. And not 8 years
I totally
is long,
agree.
Brandon. It hasn't been 8 years.
8 years is a lot. All right. So I think there's 4 possible end games, and people talk about 3 of them pretty often, and no one talks about the 4th one. So here are the 4 Brady end games, Nick, and I'll throw it to you. End game number 1 for Brady. John Elway style, right? Helicopter in, you're like, thank you, everybody. John Elway, I'm out of here. Won the Super Bowl. Okay, got that one. End game number 2, the Brett Favre end game. Like, wow, I thought you were washed, but now we're in the Jets and we're in the playoffs. And don't get me wrong, Brandon, I know the Jets are a great franchise, but it wasn't all Brett Favre. But you're not quite the player you used to be, but you're always dangerous, can get to the playoffs, can make things happen. End game number 3 that everyone wants to kill old Bill Belichick about, that you push Tom Brady out, you plan for the future. They're not doing that. End game number 4, what I'm calling, Nick, the LeBron end game. Maybe Tom Brady has another destination in mind. It's not out of the realm of possibility, and nobody talks about it. Maybe he's not long for Tampa Bay. Maybe Tampa Bay will get to a point where we look around like, all right, we need to plan. And Tom Brady's like, all right, hey, it's Tom Brady here. Anybody got a lot of cap space, some good wide receivers, need some veteran leadership? So I think the Bucs are playing this perfectly, but I think there is a greater than 0 chance that Tom Brady doesn't retire a Buc.
Well, and they're trying to move that down to 0, because an extension here would make that a 0% chance, because Brandon Wild's point is, as his current contract, he's a free agent after this year. And so in theory, he could go wherever he wanted to go. And I think the Bucs, when they signed Brady, I think they felt, listen, we're signing him for 2020. 2021 is the tax we're going to have to pay on that. But because he played so well at the end of the year and they won the damn Super Bowl, even if he wasn't brilliant in the playoff run, now they're like, okay, we want to make sure we have him and the pieces around him in 2021. And if the tax we have to pay is a bad contract in 2022, we'll pay that tax. And I think that's smart. I think that is absolutely what they should do, Brandon.
I think it's brilliant. I think they're looking at the opportunity. They're looking at the division, saying there's no Drew Brees, possibly. I mean, I felt like the dude was going to retire a couple of weeks ago. That hasn't happened yet. But if you take Drew Brees out, then you can own that division. And you're looking at this team and how it's set up. You're built to win now. You have the cap space to bring back a couple of those guys on the defensive side, and you have the offense. You got a young offensive line who probably is going to be the best offensive line in football next year. Tom Brady, and I'll say it, and I'll continue to say it, Tom Brady, you're not getting paid to throw it for 5,000 yards. That was a bonus for you to do what you did last year. Just don't mess it up, Tom Brady. You have everything you need just to be a great a game manager. If you do that, you're going to find yourself back in the same position, potentially hoisting the Lombardi. And we're going to be sitting here saying, man, this is the GOAT of all GOATs, Jenna.
Yeah, how many times?
Legit, nobody was more surprised by Drew Brees, by the way, non-retirement, than Brandon Marshall. Just mark it down. Time for Nick's NBA medals as we take a soft turn here. So, Devin Booker, newly minted All-Star, went for 33 last night, but the Suns' win streak snapped by the Hornets. What does it mean? It means you don't get a medal, buddy, not according to Nick's standards. So, Nick, who you got today?
Yesterday was all international. We're gonna continue the international trend with Danilo Gallinari, my fellow countryman from Italy. I'm not actually from Italy, but it's my heritage. He hit 10 threes off the bench, 38 points, and a win. Now, you're downgraded a bit because you beat a really bad team, but that's a good job by him, 38 points in the win over the Celtics. Staying international, Zion Williamson. You're like, wait, international? He's interstellar. I think he's from Mars. 32, 6, and 5 for newly minted All-Star Zion Williamson in a win over the Pistons. If any team should be built to slow down Zion, it's the Pistons all-center roster. But as Wilds illustrated, the Plumlee guy, I don't even know which Plumlee it is. Whichever Plumlee it is, his brothers texted him. We're like, bro, make a heart foul. Mason, Miles, Marshall, there's 3 of them. Hey, SGA, gold medalist. I think it's his first medal ever, and it's a gold. 42-8. And by the way, the Spurs quietly, like 16-12. And SGA says, hey, we're just going to beat you. Now, how did they win? The great Lou Dort hit the game winner as the clock expired. But they wouldn't have been in that position, Brandon, without SGA's 42-8. And then went over the Spurs. So there's your medal stand for February 24th.
About time it took.
Last night in the NBA.
Yeah, it took you a month to get it right. Hey, look, really quick, Wilds, you've been out on vacation, an extended vacation. The Williamson era has begun. This dude is balling right now. They're letting him bring the ball up the court. He has the ball in his hands more. This dude is great.
All right, well,
I agree with that.
On your extended vacation, you got to tell us then who missed the cut last night. I'm sure you're just teaming to say something. Got to be someone that's close.
Look, LeBron's highlight reel is probably too long for this to go on it, even if it did go in. But we missed a great moment here when he shook the Stifle Tower. I think LeBron, Nick, personally was so mad that he missed this, came down the next play, had a big dunk. So close to LeBron, literally missed the cut, but you made Gobert fall, so you made miss the cut.
And from that moment forward,
all right, we mentioned
big momentum killer.
We mentioned Zion. Zion actually thinking about participating in the slam dunk contest. Wouldn't that be a treat for us? Talking dunk dreams next. First things first.
Hey, First Things First listeners, it's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People's Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness. Or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we could all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you. Now, back to First Things First.
I got to circle back to football. Tom Brady's going to be like 44 in August. You know he's going to sign an extension?
He is.
He's going to sign an extension.
Yeah, I know.
An extension.
Uh-huh. What? It's not even a question. You're just taunting me. You know what? You're just trying to end this on a sour note because Tom Brady won't leave my life. Because Tom Brady is just Jason in a number 7, number 12 jersey. So that's fine. I'm out on Cowher.
Always a good time with those two.
Not friends
Time now
anymore.
for a little drawing a blank.
That's a terrible interview strategy, Jenna. You're much better than him. You're a far better broadcaster. He didn't even ask a question, just made a statement. I'm out on him. Go ahead, Jenna. Sorry.
Well, on that note, let's just stay right there. Go on with your point. Let's talk some Steelers, though. Juju Smith-Schuster, the logo dancing, non-logo dancing wide receiver, also the pending free agent, was asked where he wants to play next season. He said this, I want to have my legacy in Pittsburgh. Brandon, Juju's commitment to your hometown Steelers is blank.
I get it. I see through it too, Juju. Hey, this is business as usual. March 17th, 4 p.m. Do you know what that date means? That's the official start of the new league year. On that date, at that time, you can sign a new contract. So, of course, he's trying to put himself in a good position. He's trying to tell the Steelers, like, look, give me the bag. I want to stay here. That's what he's doing. A lot of this is going to be coming out in the next couple weeks around the NFL.
This is also, though, Brandon, not reciprocated. Pardon me. He might want to have his legacy in Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh's entire history tells us what they don't do is sign good but not great receivers to second contracts. Mike Wallace, see you later. We saw Emmanuel Sanders, see you later. The only guy they signed to a long-term deal was AB because AB was the best in the league by then, and they got him under market value because they signed him early. The Steelers draft this position too well to end up signing these guys to secondary contracts. So I don't think he's going to have his legacy in Pittsburgh. I think he's going to end up elsewhere. Might be in the state, though, Wilds. He could just go a few hours to the east and end up in Philadelphia.
Ooh, I like that one. I'm going with enthusiastic. First of all, I want to bring back the TikTok dances. I think now we missed them. I know they were a nice talking point, but I would like to bring them back. Okay, so I think that should be written into the contract. So there's not a big deal if it happens, next year. Like, why is he doing this? Like, well, it's in the contract. And I'm like, well, if it's in the contract, I guess so. Here's the other reason you should be enthusiastic. Old Big Ben, the person you call Noodle Arm, Nick, he throws the ball. And Brandon, if you taught me anything, it's that wide receivers like to catch the ball. You don't want to go to old Baltimore and never get the ball, just do a bunch of blocking.
Right.
Stay in Pittsburgh, get the ball a lot.
Right.
Noodle arm.
Oh, noodle arm. Hey, Marcus Mariota. We don't have a nickname for him yet. Looks like Mariota will be on the move this offseason. Rumors are pointing to a little spot on the map we like to call, you ready for it, Wilds? New England. Get your Photoshops ready, buddy. Brandon, Marcus Mariota as the Pats QB would be blank.
Ooh, Marcus Mariota. Uh-oh, the Patriots are going to be back. Hey, Wilds, you should be celebrating. You should be happy, right? You guys are going to get Marcus. The Patriots going to be right back where they need to be and running everything in the AFC. Man, this is slim pickings. Wow. Marcus Mariota hasn't played but 6 games in the last 2 years. Look, I'm a fan of him on and off the field, but he's just not that guy. Maybe Josh McDaniels can help him out. Maybe.
Hey, you know what, folks?
Certainly doesn't seem like it.
Brandon, I really am excited for the day we get a topic on a guy Brandon doesn't like. Because even the guys he likes, he's just mocking. He's like, basically, dude, this guy's trash. Everybody knows it.
True.
And he's like, by the way, I love him. He's a man of God, great family man, awesome person. Work out with him. Listen, this is, to me, predictable. I think this is, and Coach Mangini mentioned it earlier in the week, I think this is the most likely. The Raiders aren't going to keep a $10 million cap hit for their backup quarterback. The Patriots have a mid-round pick that they can trade for him. And there is the glimmer of potential there. Not just because of what he did at Oregon. His second year in the NFL, he was really good. And then he never came close to recapturing that. So I think this is going to be what ends up happening, Wilds. I think Marcus Mariota is your starting quarterback next year.
All right. Look, if he's our quarterback, I will get behind him. But it's been 18 months since Tom Brady put his house up for sale. What's the plan? Because I haven't seen it, and I love Cam. But your old buddy Kevin Wilds is Photoshop exhausted, and I don't think our graphic designers are going to allow me to keep making quarterback. Here's one I did. Here's Stafford. That didn't work out. What else did we end up doing? Here's Tua. When I don't know how I was planning on this, but that happened. And then who else do we have here? Trevor Lawrence. This was when we were going to tank for Trevor. Remember that? And I was like, we'll never tank. We ended up getting Cam. We still didn't make the playoffs. This one I'm still holding out hope for. This one is I'm actually misreading some of those Panthers reports as Patriots reports on purpose. I put down my glasses. I was like, does that say Patriots? It might be. I'm a little bit out of whack right now. So I don't know. Marcus Mariota, I guess we'll get our Photoshop team on it.
Great. It's great stuff, Wiles. All right, let's talk some basketball now. Some would say the Celtics are in a bit of a rut lately. As a Celtics fan, I'll say that losing to the Hawks last night, that dropping 2 games below 500 ain't no big deal. Some might disagree, but that's what I'm saying. Brandon, the Celtics' struggles this season have been blank.
Oh, bigger than this season, Jenna. This is a bigger story. I think this is a collapse of an organization. I think when you look at this at the end of the year, we're going to say, man, the Celtics are now right there on par with the Timberwolves. The Celtics are right there on par with the Suns. I mean, the Suns are playing great now. They're probably going to make it to the playoffs. But this is what's happening with this team. Like, how do you do this? And, Nick, my gut says you may have the answer.
Yeah, well, listen, it's a terribly built roster. They've got there is no excuse for having 2 players playing as well as Brown and Tatum, and as often, and I know Tatum got knocked out with COVID, but they've played the vast majority of their games, and to be 2 games under 500 in the terrible Eastern Conference, unless the rest of the roster is terrible. And the idea, so I say it's predictable, because going into the year, it's like, don't worry, guys, Tristan Thompson's coming to save the day. Don't worry, the last 5 years of terrible Danny Ainge draft picks are coming to save the day. Don't worry, and it's this idea, and so my because you can't be this bad with Tatum and Brown playing as often as they are. And I know Wick Grusbeck, Wilds, the owner, came out and said if we fired Stevens or Ainge, they would immediately get another job. I'm not making those moves. Well, then what move do you have to make? I'm just curious. You're not trading Tatum. You're not trading Brown. No one else has trade value. You're not going to, what's the move to make yourselves actually a contender? There isn't one because the roster's been so poorly built. So it's indefensible for them to be this bad.
Look, there's a little bit of this that you're taking shots at Danny Ainge just to get Jenna upset. I think it's all right,
hello.
Jenna, we know it. They have to make some move. Yeah. I don't know what it is. There's a bunch of names floating around there. Chris Mannix had my favorite one, bring back Horford, Vucevic maybe. There's maybe we can get Vucevic.
Oh my God, that'll fix it.
It's Mannix's thing. I loved it. It wasn't my idea. I loved it. I thought it was moderately defensible. Moderately defensible is going to put indefensible. Everybody's young. Kemba's hurt. Marcus Smart is hurt. And this is the other play I thought was moderately defensible. Trae Young bouncing it off Grant's back here. Look, there's 1 second on the shot clock. I'm trying to play a little defense here. So. Bad low light for the Celtics.
Let's just move on. On to Zion now. The second-year stud was asked if he's thinking about participating in the slam dunk contest. How about this? He didn't rule it out. He said, quote, who knows? I might. Hey, Brandon, Zion saying he might participate in the dunk contest is blank.
This is much needed. I mean, did you watch the game last night? Man, this is Tyreek Hill in a Shaquille O'Neal type body. This dude is so freakish. Man, he has bunnies. So this is much needed for NBA season where it doesn't seem like, we're getting a lot of great basketball. So hopefully he gives us a little spark halfway through the year, and it's going to spark something for the second half of the season.
So I say this is step 1, and it's step 1 of redoing this year's All-Star game. Because nobody wants to do the traditional All-Star game without fans. You've selected the team, so guys got their honor. Step 1, Zion in the dunk contest, and therefore people are excited about it. Step 2, replace the All-Star game with a King of the Court contest, one-on-one competition that guys want to be in.
All in on that.
Step 3, extreme three-point shooting. Meaning, you pick essentially, it's the three-point contest, but 20 feet beyond the arc. It's logo shots and nothing else. And step 4, Wilds, this half-baked idea, I need you to workshop this with me. Masked something. I don't know why, but America loves watching people compete in masked. Look at the ratings of Masked Singer, Masked Dancer. So masked some type of athletics. I don't know what it is yet. We got to figure that out. But step one is Zion in the dunk contest, and that's how we're going to save All-Star Weekend. It's going to end with masked something.
Masked something is great. You know what I always wanted, Nick? Speaking of I'll give you idea number 5, like a Royal Rumble aspect. Where the WWE brings back old wrestlers like, oh, Edge, here he comes. It's like, who's coming out on the All-Star? You're like, what? Shaq is going to play a few sets? I love it.
Yeah.
What was my answer?
I like it.
I went Plumlee. I just wanted to take another shot at Plumlee here. Zion, I think, would be disappointing in the dunk contest. It's not like he's the most creative dunker. He dunks it hard in-game, but he's an in-game dunker. He's not like the most creative out-of-game dunker like you see on YouTube. So to make it interesting,
it's the Sean
is punishment for bailing out on this dunk.
Yeah.
You have to stay there and get dunked on. That's part of it.
I like that.
I
like that.
I read the entire internet every day, dude. Don't ask me if I have Google. I read the entire internet from front to back.
Revamped All-Star Weekend.
Zion Williamson.
I've watched every YouTube video.
We head to Brooklyn for Nick's favorite question. Are the Brooklyn Nets the NBA's best team already? It's actually Brandon's best question. Next, first things first. Back here, first things first, talking the Brooklyn Nets. Now, listen, say what you will about this team. No defense. The big three can't seem to all be on the court at the same time. Their nickname is a net. This Brooklyn team's hot. Yeah, they won 7 in a row. They look like the best team in basketball. So with that setup, we say good morning to Sarah Kustok. I did mention the defense. We say hello to Sarah. Sarah, you've covered every Nets game this season. You know this team inside and out. Nobody better to answer this than you. Are Kyrie and Harden proving that the Nets are already the team to beat in the East?
Jenna, I love the fact that this is the way you start the question, asking if Kyrie and Harden are proving this, because there's also a 7-footer on the bench who's pretty good at both ends of the floor, and Kevin Durant, who actually isn't even played throughout the course of much of this stretch. Thinking about the fact that he's missed 8 of the last 9 games. With all respect to Philadelphia, and especially Joel Embiid, who's been playing like an absolute beast. Of course, Milwaukee not rolling through the regular season like we're accustomed to seeing, though making some tweaks. Absolutely. I think that the Nets are the team to beat in the East, and I think they're just scratching the surface of what they're going to be. Not only have they had, some issues with injuries and just figuring out their lineups, rotations in terms of their 3 stars actually being on the floor together, but the complementary pieces, the role players, whether it's Joe Harris, figuring out exactly how you're going to look at these lineups with Bruce Brown now coming on, what Jeff Green has been able to do. A lot of the questions that we were starting to wonder about the defensive end, that's slowly improving. So I think for a multitude of reasons, starting with the stars, they are going to continue to improve. And this is just a small piece of what they're going to look like as it goes on.
Yeah, Sarah, don't worry. We don't talk defense on this show, not until like the end of March, all right? And that's all Nick going to talk about.
The end of March now.
Oh, my goodness. 7-game win streak.
It was mid-March. Now it's
you know
the
what's
end
going to break y'all down? Yeah, well, we go mid-March. You're right. I stand corrected. I stand corrected. But that's it. Oh, no defense, no big man. How's this team going to continue? But, Sarah, I want to throw it back to you really quickly because there's no one really closer to this team. I mean, you're watching them night in and night out and very closely. James Harden. To me, James Harden should be celebrated. It was a big question mark around him, and will he be able to insert himself into this team, this organization, and actually not dominate the ball? But you're seeing him do what he needs to do, whether that is distribute the ball when you have KD and Kyrie, or when you have no KD, right? Go get it. I go get 30 points if you need me. So talk to me a little bit about what you are seeing out of James Harden.
James Harden is been absolutely exceptional. He's filthy when he has the ball in his hands because he is a basketball savant. And the integration that he's made with this team has been nothing short of incredible, just in how he's figured out exactly what the team needs. And Brandon, you nailed it. Think about the fact that he has his lowest usage rate since back when he was with the Thunder in 2011, 2012.
Wow.
Yet he is at career highs for whether it's offensive rating or field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, rebounds, assists. He is doing everything for this team. He has been excellent in orchestrating what the offense is generating. The fact that there are tops in the league, so much of it is coming back to just his understanding of how to spoon feed players when he needs it, make timely baskets. And I think for Harden, so much credit should go to the fact that he's entirely changed the way in which he was playing in Houston, just with how he is managing this offense and managing the ball.
Yeah, listen, I think Sarah, as always, and it's wonderful to have you back on the show. We had a pandemic lapse of not having enough Sarah Kustok, so it's great to have you back. I think Sarah makes great points. I think Brandon, all years made great points. I'm starting to wonder why we even play the season. I mean, I just looked, and I'm going to double check, because the Nets have won 7 in a row. And the Lakers, my pick to win the title, they've lost 4 in a row. So I just imagine that the gap in the standings is massive. Oh, wait, the Lakers still have a better record. That's so odd. And the 7 wins in a row. Oh, the Nets are still not even first in their own conference. That's odd. It's almost like prior to these last 2 weeks, they were a mediocre team. So let's talk about why they were a mediocre team prior to these last 2 weeks. Oh, that's right. The worst defense in the NBA post the Harden trade. So let's talk about the defensive end that Brandon doesn't want us to talk about. And I'm also going to throw it back to Sarah before Wilds jumps in. Sarah, here's my question. I don't think the Nets are going to have any trouble getting out of round 1. In round 2, they're going to play either Milwaukee or Philly. That's what, in theory, that might not be the case, but right now that's how it would be. Who on this team is going to guard either of those teams' stars? Who is going to guard Giannis? And more importantly, maybe who is going to guard Joel Embiid? Because that is the question here. Or is the answer, it doesn't matter because they can beat you 125-120? And that's a legitimate answer. Do you think their plan is we're going to beat you 125-120, or their plan is we're going to have an answer for one of those guys to slow them down in a series?
Excellent question, because I think there's a lot of season to play. I think it's a little bit of both, considering the fact that I don't think this is the roster as it sits that you may be looking at by the time you get to the playoffs. Secondly, the Nets are best when they're playing small. So they are best when you've got Kevin Durant and Jeff Green essentially at this point in the front court. So you bring up the concept of guarding those bigs. I think in many ways the Nets will try and force the hand of the opponent to play to us and play to our size. And we've seen the Nets defensively. I mean, they're trying different things. They're switching 1 through 4, 1 through 5. And I think a lot of it is going to be the attempt to just show different looks, how they can scramble on that end of the floor. And real quickly, I think the difference in their defense lately, they had been turning the ball over at incredible rates. They had been giving up a ton of second chance points. You look at the box score at the end of a game, and the teams were getting 20 extra shots, 22 extra shots after game. I think there's a lot on the offensive end if they clean up that can help put less pressure on their defense when you start getting later in the season, when those possessions matter, as we know in the postseason.
Sarah, I have 2 questions. One, how worried do you think we should be about Kevin Durant's hamstring? I mean, I like that they have a lot of depth on the squad, so he's going to miss tonight's game if you guys keep winning. And 2, you hinted at it that there might be some roster changes. Is there anything that you have heard that the Nets are targeting or might look to make changes on?
Yeah, the Nets are looking at everything in terms of being flexible. And I think when it comes to whether it's trades or the buyout market, that's something when you think about fortifying the front court. So that's one aspect, no names that I know of at this point. However, with Kevin Durant, I think anytime you have a player of his caliber, there is some level of concern, but by all accounts from the Nets and everything they said, they're just being overly cautious. They anticipate he'll be back again before the All-Star break. I think with him, it is a long view and a big picture view, similar to a lot of what we're seeing with the Lakers and Anthony Davis. But the difference is it's not just about having 2 stars and you're missing one of them. It's the insurance of you got Irving and Harden to go along with that. And the expectation is that once he gets back, he'll be more than healthy.
That's absolutely right. And that is the biggest benefit to the 3-star system, if you will. And you saw it in Miami. There were series where Bosh was hurt or was out. They were able to overcome it because they had LeBron and Wade. You saw it in Golden State. Once they added KD, that Steph could miss some time or KD could miss some time. They didn't actually lose a series together until you had multiple of your stars, where it was KD and Clay end up going out, that you can't overcome it. So that's obviously not only a massive benefit, but they're the only team in the league with those 3 stars. Like, we're no longer in a 3-star league. We're in a 2-star league, except for the Nets, who have those 3 stars. The concern would be, do they have a redundant skill set to a degree, and do they all lack, except for KD, on the defensive end? But I want to go to Brandon for a moment, because one thing Brandon and I agree on that I do think should be, I do emphasized, is James Harden. And it is frustrating to me because I felt like for Harden's tenure in Houston, he was underappreciated. And then I really didn't like how he left Houston. So I think now people think, because of the way I responded how he left Houston, think I'm anti-Harden. What you are seeing with James Harden and the folks who are like, oh, he's passing now, he always was a great passer. He just was first, second, and third option was shooting. I do think, Brandon, the biggest plus that has come of the Harden trade is that Kyrie has accepted it as willingly as he has and has let Harden be the true point guard, because Harden flatly is a far better point guard than Kyrie Irving. Kyrie's just a pure scorer, and I think that has been the key to their success while Durant's been missing games.
Yeah. 100%. And, you know, going into this thing, everybody had all these question marks. How are these guys going to do it? You know, we're talking about the chemistry, the continuity, James Harden, Kyrie, KD, who's going to take the last shot? Nick, you know, I'm glad that you're finally coming on this side. It sounds like you are. You know, oh, this is the only team that has the big 3. This team is amazing. Yeah. This team has everything they need to get it done because of everything you just said. So this discussion around the Nets, I think, is going to continue to get bigger heading into the All-Star break. Why is that big? But why is that big? Because at the beginning of the year, everybody said it's going to take time. They're not even at the halfway mark yet, and they're hitting their stride without KD. So I think this team is special, and we're realizing that sooner than later.
No, Brandon, I am coming around. I think the Nets are one tweak away from being the overwhelming favorite to win the title. And the tweak is Adam Silver switch it to a make-it-take-it league. The moment that happens, no one's beating them. But as long as, like, you got to get stops, I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned, Sarah, but one tweak.
Steve Nash said KD probably won't be back before the All-Star game, by the way. Nets are back in action tonight. Back to football. And Jimmy Garoppolo, is this the guy that's holding the Niners back from reaching new heights? We will discuss next. First things first.
Literally went to the Super Bowl.
Back here talking 49ers. They are smack in the middle of quarterback rumors this offseason. Odd, since they have a quarterback. But is Jimmy G their long-term solution? Feels like it's always a solid, sort of, with this guy. Yesterday, Niners GM John Lynch said, quote, I really believe that Jimmy is our guy. All right, former Pro Bowl receiver Greg Jennings joining the conversation now. I'm not sure that puts this argument to bed or anything. But, Greg, would the 49ers be making mistakes sticking with Jimmy G?
Not at all. Not at all. They really do like Jimmy Garoppolo. They think he is a really good quarterback, and he could facilitate their system. He can allow them to have the success that they are in search of. You look at the year before this past season, he was able to kind of hold things together and get them to the Super Bowl, or be a part of the reason why they were able to get to that feat. However, this team, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, they are all about improving at every position, specifically the quarterback. And if Kyle Shanahan feels like he can improve and John Lynch feels like he can improve this roster, that's what they're going to do. They've talked about it. They just go about it differently than than, let's say, the Carolina Panthers have done with Teddy Bridgewater. And I think that's smart because you're upfront, you're honest with Jimmy Garoppolo. You let him know, like, you are our guy. But we're constantly trying to improve our roster, not only for you, but for the guys around you as well. So I think it's an intriguing position for Jimmy Garoppolo to be in because it's all about you play to play. You play to play. Like, that's what you do. And Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't been able to play. So that's why John Lynch is saying if he's healthy and he's able to give us and afford us the things that we know that he's able to do consistently, he's our guy. But if not, we're going to continue to look around and shop and find somebody that can improve our roster.
No, man. I can't wait to get the resident GM's take on this. No, this team doesn't believe in Jimmy G. It's every year we're having this conversation. They're always flirting with different quarterbacks. It's Matthew Stafford. You don't think they call? You don't think they call his agent? You don't think they called down to Houston and tried to see what the market was there? I just think the price, or I know the price was just way out of control for with the 49ers. You go on and on and on. Since Jimmy G got there, and after that first year, they've been flirting with so many quarterbacks. I think if this team had a Matthew Stafford, if this team had a Deshaun Watson, if this team had a Tom Brady, they would be in the Super Bowl. They're that good. Why? Because Coach Shanahan is next level when it comes to offense. It's next level when it comes to creativity. Phenomenal. And then you look at the defensive side. I don't know how they'll bounce back now that you lose your defensive coordinator. Now he's the head coach with our beloved Jets. But, Nick, no, the Jimmy G is not their guy. This is John Lynch. This is John Lynch, my former teammate, just trying to create a little market for Jimmy G. Because why? You got March 17th right around the corner, 4 p.m. The new NFL league year is right there. He's trying to do business.
And so here's the thing. We know the moment, the actual moment. If it was a movie, there would have been dramatic music playing as this moment happened. That Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch both said, we got to get better at this spot. And it's when Jimmy G missed, I believe it was Emmanuel Sanders, wide open to win the Super Bowl. And I think they left that game and they said, you know what? It's going to be tough to have a better team than the one we have right now. We have all these great young defensive linemen on rookie or manageable contracts. We're going to lose some. And in fact, they lost to Forrest Buckner that offseason. We had an incredibly healthy offensive line. And in fact, they tried to upgrade it by adding Trent Williams this offseason. We were able to add a wide receiver like Emmanuel Sanders at the trade deadline. And we were up 11 points, 10 points in the Super Bowl with 7 minutes left. We needed 3 completions to win the game. And then once we were trailing, we needed 1 big completion to take the lead, and we couldn't get any of them. So we know why they're looking elsewhere. Wilds, the problem is that they're shopping on barren grocery shelves. There aren't, Jimmy G, I do not think is great. I don't even know that he's very good. But there aren't quarterbacks better than him readily available. So anytime a Russell Wilson might maybe possibly be available, or a Deshaun Watson, or even a Matt Stafford, or I guess even the old man Brady who ended up winning the damn Super Bowl, they are going to be in those conversations. But when it's like, wait, I came here for Deshaun Watson, and what I see is beneath where the Deshaun Watson is on the shelves, I see it's in a bag, not even in a box. What's this called? Marcus Mariota? No, okay, then I'll stick with my Jimmy G. Like they don't have the availability of an upgrade. And so I don't think it's a mistake, but I also don't think they're satisfied.
Yeah, I think they should move on. Like, certainly, you know, he is 24-9 as a starter and brought the 49ers to the Super Bowl. But still, listen to me, 49ers.
The Super Bowl.
Time to move on. He's owed $25 million, the injuries, maybe Deshaun Watson, maybe Josh Rosen. So I went and I put every single team in here, trade him for a draft pick. Every single team in here. Let's see who we get, who you should trade. Let's see, just take one random one here. Oh, wow, the Patriots. That actually would work. The Patriots. Trade to the Patriots. We used to be with Bill Belichick. That'll be a big win for, I don't know, like 4th round draft pick, 5th round draft pick. Come and win. Look, I understand. I am rooting for Deshaun Watson, Nick, to go to the Patriots. I don't think that's going to happen. But my second place I'm rooting for Deshaun Watson is to go for the 49ers, to free up Jimmy G, to come home to New England where he belongs and have that epic Tom Brady versus Jimmy G matchup in Foxborough. There's nothing I want more in my heart. Trade him, gentlemen.
Wows, look, Wows, let me go right back to Greg real quick. Greg, I'm going to give you another opportunity to get this right, man. Greg, I've been around you and Nicole for over 10 years. And you know what? There was this one moment where I came to your golf tournament and we were sitting on the balcony and I was like, man, Greg, this is pretty cool, man. How many people do you have here? How much money did you raise? He's like, yeah, I think we're on pace to raise $300,000. Nicole came out. She said, hey, baby, would you like some lemonade? You said, yeah. She hands you the lemonade and then you just looked in her eyes like this. And you just gaze in her eyes. When you know it's the one, you just have that look, right? You just feel it. But Greg, you've been around dudes in the locker room where you with your lady, and then all of a sudden their eyes go like this and start looking around, and then they put sunglasses on. Like, well, maybe if I put my sunglasses on, she don't see my eyes looking at other people. That's what's going on in San Francisco. Every year, the 49ers got the Adam Gase eyes. That's what they're doing. They looking around at all these other quarterbacks, man.
It was a long bridge to get there and a risky one.
That was like a Euro tunnel. To get there. But you got there, man.
That was good.
You got there.
So here's the thing. I do have this right. It is not a mistake for them to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not saying that they're not shopping around. Yes, but talking to Kyle Shanahan all last year, I did 2 of their games, as well as John Lynch. Like, they are all about improving at this position. They truly believe that if this roster is healthy, they can insert almost any quarterback and get it done because he believes in his scheme, his running attack, his ability to control the time of possession and not turn the ball over. That's all they really want out of the quarterback. Now, if you have an opportunity to get a Tom Brady, if you have an opportunity to upgrade and get a Deshaun Watson or a Russell Wilson, yes, almost every team outside of the current team that those gentlemen are on would want them. Like, and the Houston Texans don't want to give up Deshaun Watson. The Seattle Seahawks don't want to give up Russell Wilson. So, like, we would be foolish to think that the 49ers aren't looking and shopping around at potential upgrades. But to Nick's point, there aren't so many guys.
Yeah, that's right.
Greg, look into the camera and give us the look you gave Nicole. Show me the look. I just want to see it one time. Show me the look. I'm handing you lemonade, buddy. That's the look. It's so good. I love it. There you go. Love match made in heaven. We got to take a turn. We're talking the Boston Celtics now. There might be a little trouble in Boston. Do we think they're officially in trouble? Can they turn this around? Do they need to make changes? We will discuss all. It's next. First things first. Good stuff, Greg.
Jenna, it's the look Brandon was giving Cam.
First things first, we got to talk some Boston Celtics now. My preseason pick to come out of the East is now my midseason pick to maybe not coming out of the East. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, they've lost 3 in a row. They're now 9th in the conference. Despite all that, Boston's owner says the team's not firing Danny Ainge, obviously, because he's amazing, or Brad Stevens, because he can turn things around. Sarah Kustok is back with us now. Sarah, you think the Celtics need to make some sort of major change? They're now 2 games below 500. What do they need to do?
I think the major change they need to be making has to do with the roster. At this point of the season, I don't think it does anything to make moves with Danny Ainge or with Brad Stevens, and especially considering the fact, I think you can't overstate just how much Marcus Smart has meant to this team. They've been relying on a bunch of young players. Yep. It goes without saying that Kemba Walker has not been himself, and they're struggling. But Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown have been playing really well, so you look at moves you can make within the roster, and in doing so, I think bringing in a type of veteran player with Sacramento, given how they've played lately, move Harrison Barnes. Maybe, you look at a Thad Young from Chicago. I don't know where the Bulls sit. They'd look to move him, but try and bring in a player. You don't need necessarily a star, but someone to fit the bill. I've been talking to Mannix. He's selling bringing back Al Horford. I know Nick probably loves that idea.
Oh, my God.
let's round it back up again. But in all sincerity, like at this point of the year, with what they've dealt with in terms of injuries and guys missing and so much of the lack of experience, they're one game out of the 4 spot in the East. So I think at this point, you settle down, you look at what moves you could make, whether through trades or as the season continues on, any buyouts, and go from there.
Okay, so I want Al Horford back. Also, Kevin Garnett, since he's got a book coming out, sign him to a little, 10-day contract just to have on the bench, fire people up. Yeah, like Hasl's contract.
Absolutely, Kevin.
Great. All right, Nick, here's the issue, I think. This is why I'm a little bit more nervous about the Celtics than I think I should be, or maybe I'm accurately nervous. I would rather have the Lakers problems where it's like, we're struggling, and here's the exact diagnosis. You don't want to go to the doctor and be like, hey, I feel really bad. What's wrong with me? And the doctor's like, woof, I don't know. Could be like 10 different things. So I ran down a list of things it could be. You tell me what you like. Oh, it's the injuries to Kemba. It's the injury to Marcus Smart. It's the entire depth. It's the generally youth of the roster. Everybody's young. It's Brad Stevens. It's Danny Ainge. It's chemistry. There's some weird locker rooms, like maybe they're not gelling. So if I was the doctor of the Celtics, I would wish they had just one thing they could point at, say, that Al Horford could fix. But there's not. There's so much stuff going wrong here that I think it's really concerning for the Celtics.
I can point at it. I can point at it. It's the oldest tale of team sports. Why isn't our team good? Oh, we don't have enough good players. Well, who picks the players? Well, it's the GM. Has he been there a long time? Almost 20 years. Okay, so let's talk about it. But spoiler alert, folks. If your team is this reliant on Marcus Smart, your team stinks.
Right.
Marcus Smart. Loved him at Oklahoma State. He should have punched that dude that yelled at him. He's a great energy guy. If you're like, man, we just fall apart when Marcus Smart's not there, then you stink. Oh, we're trying to rely on these young players who aren't good. Oh, who picks those young players? Oh, Kemba Walker. Wait, you mean the undersized on the wrong side of 30 guard you signed, you opted for with a knee problem? He's not aging gracefully? Who'd have thunk it? The Brooklyn Nets gifted the Celtics a new lease on life post KG and Pierce. Gifted them the greatest draft bounty ever. And the Nets went through a full-on contend with KG and Pierce, tear it down, rebuild, build a new roster. In the same time, Danny Ainge has been trying to peddle this Ponzi scheme. They are not contenders. And Sarah's right, firing Danny Ainge doesn't do anything right now. But once it's the offseason, and it's like you look around, we're like, we have Brown and Tatum and a bad roster and no cap flexibility. You've got to make some type of change. I don't blame Brown. I don't blame Tatum. I don't blame Stevens. Who's left? Peyton Pritchard? He ain't doing enough for you? Come on. Like, Brandon, the roster's not good enough.
Conversation.
Nick, you've been a hit of this for an entire year or two. Well, at least since I've been on the show. Danny Ainge led this team into the Lakers' dark days. Remember that era? 2013, 2014 season,
that's right,
all the way up until your boy LeBron James got there in 2019 and turned this thing around. That's what's happening right now. This is a collapse of a premier organization. When you think about premier organizations in sports, you look at the Celtics, you look at the Lakers, you look at the Chicago Bears. There's just some organization just stands at the top. And now they're entering their dark days because of Danny Ainge, Sarah.
I agree with that.
And everyone around them has gotten better, and they have not improved. That's why I think now you think about what type of players can we bring into this lineup or into this locker room to make sure that we're putting Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in your best position possible, because those are the only two guys that you're concerned with when you think about your future.
Jenna, all Danny Ainge needs is one more former teammate to gift him a top 20 all-time player, and he can win a title again.
Hilarious.
But I don't think that's happening. So I don't know.
So funny.
From a non-basketball perspective, that's not the right move. Back talking Zion, would he easily win the dunk contest if he chooses to even participate in it? It would be fun. It would be exciting. It's next. Sarah, thank you. Everything was great except that fire Danny Ainge bit. On Saturday, the former two-time super middleweight world champion Anthony "The Dog" Dirrell returns and will face off against the rising Tyrone "Shut It Down" Davis. It's the Dog versus Shut It Down. Tough nicknames. Don't miss all the action. It's Saturday on Fox and the Fox Sports app. All right, guys, time now for some stories to start your morning. Sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve. We're talking Lakers. They played the best team in the NBA last night, and it wasn't themselves. Lakers and Jazz, and this one wasn't close, and it wasn't great for the Lakers. No Anthony Davis, no Dennis Schroeder. No way they were going to stop the Jazz as hot as they've been playing. They win by 25 points. For the Lakers, that's 4 in a row. For the Lakers, they've now lost 5 of their last 6 games. That means they played 6 games, they lost 5 of them. I just like to recap. So how worried is LeBron? I'm going to give you guys a hint. Not very worried. Take a listen.
It's challenging for all of us, especially some of our young guys, some of our guys that haven't been in this position before, where they need to do a little bit more than, what they're asked in a normal situation. Everyone's, just speaking about AD, and obviously that's a big hit, but we also haven't had Dennis along the stretch for a few games too. He's a big piece of our puzzle as well. So, and everyone has been put in positions that they, wouldn't be put in under normal circumstances. But, it's always about staying confident, continuing to give my teammates the courage and the confidence out there on the floor and to make plays. And, it's a tough stretch for us, but, if this won't define who we will be for the rest of the season and for the long haul, that's for sure.
Nick, when you look at this game last night, should we be giving credit to the Utah Jazz for their 25-point win, or should we be criticizing the Lakers for their 4th straight loss here?
It probably should be more about the Jazz, but it's more interesting to talk about the Lakers, so I'll do a little bit of both. Listen, there are 2 teams in the NBA that if the rules were just slightly tweaked, they would be the overwhelming championship favorites. In the East, you have the Nets. If we just made it just one little tweak to where it was a make-it-take-it league, they'd win the whole thing. And in the West, you have the Jazz, where if you just got rid of the playoffs and did what you do in the Premier League, where it's, hey, who has the best record at the end of the regular season? You're the champions. The Jazz would win it. But there's going to be a playoffs. And so, unfortunately for the Jazz, they're going to join the great list of teams like the 04 Pacers, the 07 Mavs, the 2011 Bulls, the 2015 Hawks, of teams that have a wonderful regular season and no chance whatsoever to win the title. So I'm happy for the Jazz. It's a good story. It's fun. Enjoy you're going to go 58-14, and everyone's going to, Nate Silver's computations are going to say they have a 62% chance to win the West when it's really 0%. So the bigger story is a team that actually can win the title, the Lakers. And the Lakers, Brandon, look a lot like the Lakers LeBron's first year there. And that was not a championship level team. That was a team with a mediocre roster, one great player, that if that great player didn't play great, they were going to lose. And last night not only was he not great, he wasn't even good. So how concerned should you be about the Lakers is, to me, directly correlated to how concerned are you about Anthony Davis not coming back, that this Achilles injury lingers, that he misses more time, that he re-aggravates it. I think the Lakers are showing you, Brandon, that if AD's not there, this team is not good enough to win 3 straight rounds in the Western Conference. But I have no reason to believe AD's not going to be there. So I think right now it's a lull where they've lost 4 straight and they've got some tough opponents coming up. But I don't think it's something to be concerned about.
Oh, well, you should be concerned because we don't know how he's going to return. We know Dennis is going to come back, and he should be fine. But, Nick, I'm going to give real credit to the Jazz. And the reason why is because I go back to that moment a month ago, that awkward moment on television between Shaq and Donovan Mitchell. Shaq said, look, man, you're one of my favorite players, but I just don't believe you can extend to the next level. And what has he done since then? He's played pretty good. He played lights out at times, averaging 27 points over the last, 6-7 games. And then you look at this team, they're probably the hottest team in the NBA right now over my Nets. So I think the story is more about them because they are the real deal. But on the Lakers side, that's the easier conversation because you don't have AD. and you don't have Dennis Schroeder, so that's expected. I think LeBron knows that. Look at how he responded after the loss 2 nights ago against the Wizards. He was agitated. He was frustrated. He was short and a little cocky with the media. And then last night, it was like he took a deep breath and was like, look, I tried to will us to victory. I tried to stand in the gap until my guys came back, but it's not possible. I can't do it. I can't do it. And so what did he do? He said, look, we just got to stay confident. It is what it is at this point. Wow. So LeBron knows it, but at the end of the day, you got to give respect to the hot Utah Jazz.
Yeah, I give respect to the Jazz, but I think the Lakers are in the rarest of situations, Nick, where if they win, they win. And also if they lose, they kind of win, because this is kind of trial is good for them as they head out to try to repeat. So Markieff Morris out of the game was like, you know what, guys? I actually like this kind of going through a little bit of struggle. If you ask me, we need it. You never know with the injuries. You never know in the playoffs. You just never know. We need these challenging times to really find out who we really are. And LeBron's like, you know what? Markieff is right. You know, for us to be going through this right now, I think it's going to benefit our team tremendously. So, hey, you're losing games, actually benefit. One of those things you're learning, LeBron's not a three-point shooter. Regressing to the mean. So maybe like, you know what? Maybe we need to add some three-point shooting, Nick, because here's the other thing I think we're learning here. Unlike the Nets, where Durant can sit out a few games and they still look great, the Lakers can't. And you're like, well, you know, we all assume or we hope that AD's Achilles injury is going to heal. I think they're going to be very cautious with them. So the question for you is, do the Lakers need to make a move, or do they have the flexibility to make a move to add somebody? Maybe it's Boogie who has his own Achilles issues.
No,
to do something.
They're not going to add Boogie.
I'm not confident that AD.
Sorry to interrupt. They'll get a buyout guy, but LeBron also wasn't going to shoot better than Steph from 3 all year, but he's not going to shoot 20%.
Yeah, that's true.
He'll revert back to the mean, and Schroeder will help their three-point shooting, Jenna. But last year they were a bad three-point shooting team and won the title based on the strength of having the best player ever and the best defense in the league. That's what's going to happen again this year, Jenna.
If AD doesn't make it back, I got a possibility for the Lakers. Little in or out. Myles Garrett filmed just bully balling his way around the basketball court. This dude can play because this dude is gigantic. He tweeted at Mark Cuban, you need a big guard? Start with you, Brandon. You in or out on the Mavs offering Myles Garrett a contract. Look at this guy. He's jacked.
I'm so in on this, Jenna. I mean, you're already struggling. You're having a bad year. Why not? And the kid, he has real game. Look at him.
No, he doesn't. Give him some of Kristaps' minutes. Give him some of Kristaps' minutes, Wilds, while you shop Kristaps.
The smartest move here is these opponents, Jenna. I've never seen worse defense. I know no one wants to guard Myles Garrett.
True.
This is ridiculous.
See you tomorrow. Undefeated right now.